Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callie, and today I am going to be doing a 2020 wrap-up of all of the duologies that I read. And I came up with this because earlier in December, I did a wrap-up of every series that I finished in 2020. And throughout doing research and setup for that video, I realized that I also read a fair amount of duologies. But I never actually put them in the same category as series because I categorize series as 3 or more books. So I decided to try and do a duology wrap-up all by itself. I fully completed 9 duologies and DNF'd 4. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about each, what the main story is about. I really like duologies because A, I don't have to wait as long for the story to wrap up. And sometimes with duologies, I think that 2 is just the perfect number for some of these stories, that a lot of things can get dragged out when there's multiple books. Whereas with duologies, we have this main story arc and that's it. And I really like that. I don't want to say quick and easy, but they're quick and fun to read, and they're just very easy to follow. There's usually not a ton of complexity with the magic and political systems with duologies, but there's still great character development and development within the world itself. So the first duology that I'm going to talk about is the Cerulean by Amy Ewing. This consists of the Cerulean and the Alcazar. This series is so weird, just because we follow this girl named Sara who lives as, basically they're an alien race that lives tethered to an Earth-like planet. And the way that this species thrives is they take nutrients from the planet below, and then when the planet can no longer sustain them and the actual people who live on the planet, they tether themselves and find a new planet to kind of attach themselves to. So Sara is chosen to be a sacrifice to cut the tether to this world. And unfortunately, it doesn't work and she just lands on the planet. So we follow 2 perspectives. We follow Sara, who is now on this very strange planet, and she is a girl who is blue with white tendril-like hair, almost like the little tendrils from Avatar, the blue one, not Airbender one. We also follow her best friend, who is still up on their world, and she is she's still grieving for the loss of her best friend, but she's also starting to notice that, like, they're not moving. Something went wrong. So she tries to uncover that, and it's such an interesting and unique world, and I know there are some problematic things within it, at least some people think are problematic things, and I respect that. I just found it's weird, it's different, it feels like a very akin to Avatar and Strange the Dreamer, which is an odd combination, but I found it a very fun and unique story. The next one is the Rhyme Chronicles, which consists of Onyx and Ivory and Shadow and Flame by Mindy Arnett. This follows a girl named Kate who is the daughter of a trader, and I really love that trope, the daughter child of a trader, because it adds a very interesting complexity to how the world perceives our main character and how the main character perceives the world. So Kate is known as Trader Kate, and she's basically been in hiding, and when her ex-boyfriend, basically the prince, ends up getting injured and she saves him, she is welcomed back into the royal court because she saved the prince. And she begins to utilize that fact that she's back in the court life to try and figure out what made her father turn traitor, if someone went against him. There's also a complex elemental magic system in this. This also focuses a lot on morally great characters. The aspect of revenge and all of that is super intriguing and really well done in this duology. The Heart of Iron duology, which consists of Heart of Iron and Soul of Stars, both by Ashley Poston. This is a sci-fi retelling of Anastasia. And that is a story that I think isn't retold enough. I know there was a couple that came out in the past couple of years. I really love this. The love story is so well done, and the sci-fi elements and the fight scenes, the androids, all of that is really fun and I think really fit for a duology. Basically, we're following Anna as she's slowly kind of trying to figure out where she's from with her best friend who's an android, and she ends up kind of falling into this ploy to earn back a throne, and we just kind of follow the story through there. She's trying to save her best friend, she's unraveling secrets of her past, and there's just a lot going for this duology. So the next book, actually, I recently learned is no longer a duology. It started off as one and is now coming out with a third book, and that is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This is a vampires in New Orleans story, which consists of the beautiful and the damned, and now apparently the righteous, which comes out later this year, I guess. So, but I really liked it. I will say the first book is a lot slower than I would have anticipated. The second book is really where our plot picks up and everything is a lot more fast paced. We have a better understanding of our vampire underworld, and we get a lot more insight into those aspects. So I'm really excited to see where this goes, but unfortunately this is actually no longer a duology. Everless Duology by Sara, Holland, which is Everless and Evermore. And in this series, the world basically runs on currency, which is time. And it's really interesting because you can pull time out of the blood. So we follow a girl whose father is dying, and she decides to take up a job in the royal city when he explicitly told her not to, because there are things about herself that she does not know, and she starts to unravel those as she goes into the royal city. I think the magic system and the history and lore of this world was so well done and really made this not seem like such a short book. Both of them are relatively short books, but the lore and history was just so well fleshed out, and it was just such a good, well-rounded story that it seemed like it could have been 5 or 6 books long, and it wasn't. The next duology is the Crown's Game duology by Evelyn, Skye, which is the Crown's Game and the Crown's Fate, which this is a very similar to the Night Circus, but more YA focused. So we follow 2 magicians who are in this battle to become the magician for the Tsar in Russia, and we follow them through trying to outdo each other with different methods, and the magic is so beautiful and very lyrical and flowery, and it's just really fun. The banter is really well done, and there's a lot of aspects of food. I know we went to go see this author, and she talked about how she loves to like integrate food as a very big deal within her worlds, and it is, and it's really fun, and I think adds a definite new layer of banter and everything to our characters. So if you like the Night Circus, I would highly recommend this duology. And the last duology that I finished in 2020 was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This follows a boy named Laszlo who has been studying this world, the lost city of Weep all of his life. And when a group of adventurers come and are trying to find the city of Weep, he sees his chance to finally get some answers. And we also follow Sara, who is trapped in the city of Weep, and we follow her and a couple of her also captured cohorts throughout this very mystical, magical aspect. This series is so well done. The world, and similar to Everless, the lore and the history is what makes this book fantastic, or this duology fantastic, and it's definitely a lot more. There's so many more surprises in this duology than I ever would have expected. I do think I liked Muse of Nightmares better than book 1, just because I had a better grasp of the world and understanding of how the magic worked and how the magic system worked. But it was still, there were so many really well done aspects in Muse of Nightmares. We have a dual timeline basically, which is fantastically done. And it's just such a whimsical world in these books, and I highly recommend them. So the next 4 are the ones that I DNF'd, and when I mean DNF the duology, basically I read the first book and I attempted to read the second, and the second one just did not either live up to par or I just did not care. There's a couple of different reasons why I DNF in the middle of a series or as a duology, and those are just a couple of ones. It really depends on the book, the subject matter, the writing. There's a lot of different aspects. So the first one is actually the only book that I still own, and that is because it's personalized, and that is Given to the Sea by Mindy McGinnis. This is a fantasy duology, which is Given to the Sea and Given to the Earth, which follows a girl named Kosa who has basically been raised to be a sacrifice, and she doesn't want to be, which is fair. But I ended up DNFing. I was going to DNF this book because it was the aspect of sexual assault was poorly done, and it made me extremely uncomfortable, which I feel like the author was trying to get at, but it was also, it could have been done a lot better. So I finished this one because it was part of our book club, and I was hoping that the second book would be a little less about that aspect, and it wasn't, so I just sort of gave up on it immediately. The next duology is Spindle Fire by Lexa Hillyer, which is Spindle Fire and Winter Glass. I finished Spindle Fire, which is a Sleeping Beauty retelling between two sisters in two different worlds. We have the sleeping sister who is in this very dreamlike world, and then we have the sister who's awake trying to save her sister. It was an interesting retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but I started the second book. We kind of went downhill with how our characters were. I thought our characters were really well fleshed out and represented in book one, and they got very whiny and piney in the second book, and I could not deal with them. They acted like snotty little teenagers, and I couldn't handle it. The next one is the Flame in the Mist duology by Renee, Ahdieh, which is Flame in the Mist and Smoke in the Sun. This is supposed to be a Mulan retelling. It was very, very far from a Mulan retelling, and I did not care for book one. I didn't feel any connections to any of the characters. I didn't care for the love story. I didn't care for the plot. So I started the second book, and I just kept finding myself at like 50 pages. I'm like, man, I just don't care. So I ended up DNFing the book. And the last duology on this list is Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Genevieve Tucholke, which is Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea and then Between the Spark and the Burn. This is a weird book. Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea I found weird in general. It was about a boy who comes to a town, a small town, weird things start happening. A girl, our main character, starts noticing she's also weird, so they bond, but he's actually like a devil or a demon, and we just sort of follow the plot through there. Book two, I really liked our main character in book one. She was really cool, really independent, like had a very artistic soul, and I liked that. Book two, she was so whiny and piney and the epitome of an annoying teenage girl, and that was like every page, and I could not handle it in book two, so I gave it up. So those are all the duologies that I picked up and mainly finished in the year 2020. Like I said, I really like duologies. If you have any duologies that you want to recommend, feel free to leave a comment down below. There's still plenty of duologies that I'm still trying to finish and hope to finish, so feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. All of our links are in the description box below. Feel free to check any of those out, and I will see you guys in our next video. Bye!